Today I am going to explain a movie called Until Dawn, which has been directed by David F. Sandberg. It is based on a game on PlayStation named Until Dawn. This movie was released on 25th of April 2025. It has a score of 5.8 stars out of 10 in IMDb, and it is 52% fresh in Rotten Tomatoes. So let us begin the video without any delay. Imagine finding yourself trapped in a place where every night ends in your demise, only for the same nightmare to begin all over again. No matter what you try, the sun never truly rises for you. The faces around you change from friends to strangers to enemies, and the air is thick with something far worse than fear. Here, even your own mind can turn against you, shaping the darkness into monsters that know you better than anyone else. Our story opens with chaos, a lone woman racing through a pitch-black tunnel, breath ragged, eyes darting in panic. She claws desperately at the earth, prying open a way to the surface. But before daylight can greet her, a masked figure bursts from the shadows and cuts her escape short. Her terrified cries echo as the darkness swallows her whole. From here, we shift to Clover, a young woman whose determination is matched only by the weight of her loss. She travels with 4 companions: Max, her ex-boyfriend who still lingers at her side; Nina, her impulsive friend who changes partners every few months; Megan, quiet yet strangely perceptive, trusting her gut about energies and omens; and Abe, the newcomer, still finding his place among them. Their mission is deeply personal: to find Clover's missing sister, Melanie, who vanished after their mother's passing. Tension brews within the group. Max is clearly trying to rekindle something with Clover. Nina's chaotic love life often distracts her, and Abe's lack of history with them makes him the odd one out. Megan, meanwhile, notices subtle signs in their surroundings, convinced that something beyond logic is at play. The trail seems hopelessly cold, until a grainy video from Melanie surfaces, showing a small roadside shop named Hartley's. In the clip, a single moment stands out: a glimpse of an old wooden sign swaying in the wind. Clover and her friends latch onto it as their only lead, unaware that following it will lead them into Glore Valley, a place where reality warps. The past lingers like a shadow, and the night refuses to end. When they finally arrive at Hartley's, the shop looks as unremarkable as any roadside stop, yet the stillness in the air feels wrong. Inside, the shelves are dusty, and a faint smell of damp wood hangs heavy. Behind the counter stands Hill, the shopkeeper, middle-aged, polite, and with a gaze that lingers just a second too long. As Clover shows him the video, Hill leans forward, his tone lowering, as he points them toward an old mining town called Glore Valley. According to him, people have gone missing there for decades, vanishing without a trace. The group leaves under a sky thick with storm clouds, the rain lashing harder with every mile. Then, without warning, they pass into an area where the downpour simply stops. The ground is dry, the air unnervingly still, while beyond this invisible border, the storm rages on. It's like stepping through a wall into another world. Ahead lies an empty visitor center, frozen in time. The calendar on the wall reads Saturday, October 24th, 1998, as if the last 20 years never happened. An hourglass sits on the counter, grains of sand trickling away, almost empty. The silence presses in, making every creak of the floorboards sound like a whisper. What began as a search for answers has now crossed into something stranger and far more dangerous. Night falls, draping the visitor center in an oppressive stillness. As the group explores, Nina signs the dusty guest register, her pen scratching across the paper. Abe lingers nearby when his eyes catch a missing person board pinned to the wall. Among the faded photographs, one image sends a chill through them all. Melanie's face stares back, her name listed as a guest multiple times. The implications are impossible to ignore. Outside, Clover senses movement in the trees. Against the others' protests, she slips into the darkness, only for Max to bring her back minutes later, unsettled and silent. But then the group's attention shifts. The hourglass they saw earlier has somehow been flipped, sand running once again, though none of them touched it. Before they can question it further, the night erupts in violence. A masked figure emerges, moving with brutal precision. Abe is the first to fall, followed quickly by Nina. Megan and Max barely have time to react before they too are struck down. Clover runs, heart pounding, but there is nowhere to hide. The masked killer catches her, ending her desperate sprint. Then, silence, a jolt. Clover opens her eyes to find herself back in the visitor center. The same night, the same moment, when the hourglass began to run. Around her, the others are alive again, confusion and fear mirrored in their eyes. The impossible has happened, they have died, yet the night has reset. The loop has begun. The shock of waking up again leaves them speechless. The missing person board now bears not only Melanie's photo, but all of theirs, as if the valley has already claimed them. Megan's eyes glaze over, her voice shifting into something not her own. She points to the board, speaking as though channeling the vanished souls, revealing that everyone pictured there had been trapped in the same time loop until they became part of it forever. Before they can process her words, Megan collapses. Panic ripples through the group. Desperate to keep the horror at bay, they barricade the doors. but Clover hears a faint knocking from outside. Ignoring the others' warnings, she steps out into the dark and finds a decaying house that hadn't been there before. An unseen force drags her inside. The interior is littered with strange masks and half-finished mannequins. In the shadows, an elderly woman appears, her voice both a threat and a warning. Survive until dawn, or join the endless night. Before Clover can respond, the woman's form withers into a skeletal figure and vanishes, leaving Clover shaken and disoriented. Meanwhile, Max debates rescuing Clover, while Abe, detached from the group's bonds, argues for saving himself. The tension fractures whatever trust remained. When Clover returns, her eyes seem distant, changed. Whether it's fear, possession, or something worse, no one can be sure. The night is far from over, and the loop has only just begun tightening its grip. The next loop begins with a fragile plan. Determined to stay alive until dawn, the group barricades themselves inside the visitor center's bathroom, believing it to be their safest option. Hours crawl by in tense silence until Abe turns the faucet. Water gushes out, a detail that unsettles Megan, who remembers the bathroom being completely dry in earlier loops. Thirst overrides caution. They each take long gulps, the cool liquid offering brief relief. But Megan's unease grows into fear as she notices something far more disturbing. Each time they return, their bodies seem less human. Hair thinning, skin losing its color. Strange, ridges forming in their teeth. The changes are small, but undeniable. A sudden, harsh cough doubles Abe over. Another follows, deeper and more violent, until his chest swells grotesquely and bursts in a spray of blood and bone. The room erupts in chaos. Max and Nina try to flee, but one by one, each suffers the same horrific fate. Megan's scream is cut short as her body contorts and explodes, leaving Clover alone, paralyzed by shock. From the shadows, Hill steps forward, calm as if he'd been waiting. He remarks almost gently that Clover had nearly made it until dawn, but surviving here requires more than hiding and hoping. His cryptic words burn in her mind as darkness swallows her. The jolt returns. She's alive again. They all are. But the marks of their deaths linger, subtle, physical changes they can't ignore. The loop isn't just killing them, it's reshaping them, molding them into something monstrous. The latest reset leaves the group rattled but more desperate than ever. They know now that brute force and hiding won't save them. Only understanding what's really happening might. So they tear through every corner of the visitor center, prying open drawers, rifling through cabinets, searching for anything that doesn't belong. Clover's hands shake as she pulls out an ID card from a stack of old papers. The name on it makes her skin crawl. Dr. Hill. Not a shopkeeper, as they had believed, but a doctor. Abe, combing through a shelf of yellowed newspapers, finds an article from 2 decades ago. Glore Valley mining disaster. Over 1,100 dead when the mine collapsed, swallowing the town. Survivors were left broken, their minds scarred beyond repair. Behind a loose wall panel, Megan discovers a dusty VHS tape. They feed it into an old player, and static gives way to a grainy image. Hill, staring straight into the lens. His voice is clinical, almost detached, as he explains that instead of healing the survivor's trauma, he used it. Fear, he says, can reshape a person, break down the mind, twist the body. The longer they live in terror, the less human they remain, until all that's left is hunger and rage. The word he uses is Wendigo. It hits them all at once. The creatures stalking them were once human, victims of the same game. 13 deaths is the tipping point. After that, there's no coming back. The guest register suddenly makes horrifying sense, each name written exactly 13 times, marking the moment their humanity was lost. The truth is as clear as it is terrifying. The loop isn't a curse. It's an experiment, and Hill is the one running it. Panic sets in. Clover weighs the unthinkable, offering herself to Hill in exchange for the other's freedom. Abe, eager to save himself, urges her to take the deal, while Max and Nina react with disbelief and anger. Megan stays silent, her eyes darting, as if listening for something no one else can hear. Before a decision can be made, Clover ventures alone into the forest. A steel trap snaps around her leg, dragging her into the shadows. Back at the visitor center, tension boils over. Nina turns on Abe, accusing him of manipulating Clover into sacrificing herself. A violent fight erupts. Max and Megan slip away. Determined to find Clover, their search takes them deeper into the woods, where the night closes in like a living thing. Megan plunges through a glass floor in an abandoned structure, her scream cut short. The masked man emerges from the darkness, claiming Nina and Abe in quick, merciless strikes. Max finally finds Clover, but their reunion is short-lived. They both know the truth. The only way to restart the loop and try again is for one of them to die. Clover asks Max to do it, her voice steady despite the terror. He does, and moments later, walks willingly into the grasp of a waiting Wendigo. The reset slams into them with brutal force. They are back once more, but now they know there will be no more chances after this. One night left to survive, or lose themselves forever. With the 13th loop ticking away, the group is down to 4. Clover, Max, Nina, and Abe. Megan is missing. But a video on Abe's phone changes everything. It's grainy, shaky, and terrifyingly clear. Megan is alive and has gone through a door in the basement, disappearing into pitch-black tunnels beyond. They don't hesitate. Together, they push through the door and descend into the darkness. The tunnels are damp and cold, the air filled with distant echoes that could be dripping water or something breathing. The deeper they go, the more the walls seem to close in. Sudden movement ahead. Wendigos. The creatures launch themselves from the shadows, forcing the group into a frantic fight for their lives. Their snarls reverberate through the narrow passageways, claws scraping stone. Somehow, they push forward, but more attackers appear, masked figures wielding crude weapons, striking from hidden alcoves. In the chaos, Clover is separated from the others. Her flashlight beam catches a familiar face, Melanie, but the relief curdles instantly. Melanie's eyes are vacant, her body twisted and monstrous. She is a Wendigo now. Clover's voice breaks as she tries to reach her, but Melanie lunges, forcing Clover to fight. The killing blow is quick, but it leaves a wound deeper than any the valley could inflict. Shaken, Clover presses on and finally finds Megan, chained. In a small chamber, a Wendigo claws at the restraints, moments from tearing her apart. Meanwhile, back in the tunnels, Max, Nina, and Abe fend off wave after wave of attackers, every strike pushing them closer to collapse. Clover breaks into a run, following the sound of footsteps to a dimly lit room. Inside, Hill waits, as calm as ever. His voice is smooth, almost soothing, as he explains that the monsters they've seen are manifestations of their own fears, shaped, nurtured, and weaponized by his experiments. Hill's words are smooth, measured, each syllable laced with the satisfaction of a man who believes he's already won. He speaks of trauma like a craftsman describing his finest work, explaining how he draws it out, twists it, and lets it take form as something tangible, something deadly. He insists the Wendigos are real, but also symbolic manifestations of the deepest insecurities and fears of his subjects. And for Clover, that means the crushing guilt over her sister, the depression that has shadowed her life, and the moments she nearly gave up entirely. As he talks, Clover's eyes wander to a slow drip from the ceiling. The water glistens under the dim light, and she recognizes it instantly. It's the same poisoned water that once tore her and her friends apart from the inside. Hill doesn't notice as she inches closer, subtly positioning her cup beneath the drip. She lets him continue his monologue, drawing his attention to himself. Then, with a steady hand, she pours the tainted water into his tea. Hill finally takes a sip, mid-sentence, and the change is immediate. His words falter, his expression shifts from smug amusement to shock, a deep rattling sound before his body convulses violently. Moments later, he meets the same gruesome end he once orchestrated for others. Clover doesn't waste time. She snatches the keys from his desk and rushes to free Megan from her chains. The group reunites, but their escape is anything but certain. The Wendigos are coming, their howls echoing closer. With each heartbeat, with Hill gone, the only option left is to run. The tunnels shake with the pounding of Wendigo claws as the group races through the twisting passages. The air grows colder, heavier, each breath a struggle. Behind them, inhuman shrieks pierce the dark. They push forward, hearts hammering, until a faint glow appears ahead, the exit bursting into the night. They find themselves back at the visitor center. But the hourglass is gone. The loop's grip feels broken. The storm that had hung frozen beyond the invisible barrier now sweeps. It's the first real change they've seen since entering Glore Valley. They don't linger. The group piles into their vehicle, tearing down the winding road, the cursed town shrinking in the rearview mirror, the soft hiss of sand sliding through glass. Somewhere, an unseen hourglass is still running. The nightmare might be over, or it might only be beginning. If this twisted journey through Glore Valley sent chills down your spine, don't let the horror end here. Subscribe and join me for more gripping horror movie explanations, where every story hides another shadow, and the next nightmare could be closer than you think.